everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Back at it with another video. I hope your guys' week is going well. We're going to take an advanced look at this upcoming full moon in the sign of Cancer. I'm titling this video, There's No Place Like Home. If you guys like my content and you want to see more of it, please click the bell button below so that way you're alerted as to when we have new videos coming out on the channel. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, putting out astro content, live readings on Fridays, horoscopes, and much, much more. And if you guys are excited about this full moon, if it's around your birthday or aspecting certain planets, leave me some comments below. I'd love to hear how excited you guys are or what you're anticipating with this lunation. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Sharing is caring. You guys, any interaction with the channel really helps the algorithm and helps my channel grow. So I appreciate it. To all of you guys who are returning, welcome back. To all of you guys who are new, thanks for joining me. So I titled this video, No Place Like Home. Obviously, right, Cancer is associated with home in the fourth house. It's the fourth zodiac of the fourth sign of the zodiac, and it's ruled by the moon. But I was thinking about the title for this video and some of the aspects that are being made, and I was thinking about the past, primarily because of it being at 4 degrees, but also the trine to Saturn in Pisces. So there's like this mystical, magical vibe with this particular full moon. When I was younger, I was obsessed with Halloween. It was like my favorite holiday. Yes, I know it's almost Christmas time for those of you guys who celebrate. You're like, Halloween had its month. But some of us will continue to celebrate. Some people have their tree up in October. You never know. But I remember really loving The Wizard of Oz. That was one of the first movies that I watched when I was a little kid. And I was so obsessed with it that's what I wanted to be for Halloween. I wanted to be Dorothy. And I remember for a whole year growing up my hair just to have pigtails so that could be like my costume. I spray glued glitter a pair of white Mary Janes. I spray glued them and then doused it in like red glitter to have like the whole 9 yards. So I was very dedicated to this costume. And I think that it really wasn't until I was older that I identified more with Glinda, the Witch of the North, than Dorothy. For those of you guys who remember, Glinda was the kinder character of all of the witches, who kind of helps Dorothy along her journey. And provides guidance and protection and advice for Dorothy and all of her merry kind of characters. But she's the one who informs Dorothy about the power of the ruby slippers and how they can help her return back home. So personally, I'm not sure if it was like the witches in the movie, if it was Toto, or the creepy history behind the happenings of the filming of The Wizard of Oz, but it'll always be one of my favorite movies. And you know, for a long time I lived in Los Angeles. So if you're native to LA, or if you live in LA now, if you guys head over to the east side, you can check out the final resting place of Toto. He actually is buried at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Definitely recommend paying Toto a visit if you're ever there for a Cinespius screening, or if you're there for the Day of the Dead. People like to leave Toto little bones and all kinds of like little offerings. Anyway, back to the movie. So for me, The Wizard of Oz and the phrase, or Dorothy's repeated mantra of "there's no place like home," right? She would always click her ruby red slippers and she would recite that, and then she would be able to return back home and almost kind of like wake up from the dream. But I think this is like a powerful symbol that reflects to the central theme of the story. And Dorothy says, you know, when she clicks her heels together, hoping that she would be able to return back home to Kansas. And it really reminded me of that connection to Cancer, to returning back home. So for me, there's a few key connections to this phrase, and it's very much, I think, connected to the full moon in Cancer, because home is seen as like a sanctuary. So, you know, throughout the journey of the magical land of Oz, Dorothy encounters various challenges that faces danger. So the phrase reflects the idea that the home is a special place of safety and comfort, and a sanctuary where one feels protected from the outside world. Very similar to that of like a crab, right? Who takes, you know, like their home up in the shell, and that's like their safe space where they're protected and they can kind of be kept safe from the outside world. I think about how this phrase is also connected to realizing the value of home. and gaining a deeper appreciation for home and family. Because if you think about the adventures of the characters she encounters in Oz, all of those characters are actually connected to her real life family in the waking world, if you guys remember that. It reminds me also of the power of belief in mindset, because after all, like, emotions have a very strong impact on not only how we view the world, but also like what we're able to manifest. Emotions are really powerful. It can work for us or against us. But I think that this mantra that she had in the movie of repeating it over and over and reminding her that sometimes what we need is within us, if we just believe or if we just emotionally kind of connect to that. And also, there is some sense of closure and resolution that happens, I think, with the phrase "no place like home," because this represents the desire for closure, for resolution, for completing something, for resting, for being able to go back to your safe space. So yeah, for me, that becomes a symbol of, achieving that goal and being able to complete something. And that really kind of connects to the symbolism of a full moon, because we're completing a cycle really that we've been working towards for the better part of like the last, not just 2 weeks, but really the last 6 months. So hopefully that gives you guys some like insight in terms of like the title. And I think we'll see some of those themes kind of coming through, not just because it's a full moon in Cancer, but also because of some of the aspects that we're going to be seeing, some very positive ones at that. For the most part, aside from a pesky little Neptune square, I'm really, really, really loving this full moon. I think it's going to be really magical. Now, this is going to be taking place either on the December 26th or 27th, depending on where you live. If you happen to be on the Pacific coast, it'll be taking place late at night, December 26th. The central and northern time is going to be obviously taking place either 2:33 a.m. Eastern time on the 27th. I know we have people in all different time zones, so just know, the evening of the 26th, that's really when you're doing your full moon kind of visualizations and rituals. Now, this is going to be a full moon that's going to take place at 4 degrees. So we've got an extra dose of Cancer. 4 is associated with Cancer. It has connections to nations and homelands, water, pools, liquid, dairy, homes, family, mothers, women, and also the public opinion, very much connected to the moon. So when we see the full moon, this is about a completion phase. We have been working since the most recent new moon that we had in Sagittarius towards this full moon. When you think about the new moon that we had in Sagittarius, it was really about realizing what we were capable of achieving. It was tapping into that inner guidance and that inner knowing and being able to kind of aim high. Beautiful aspects that we saw to the North Node. We also saw it ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter was in harmony with Mercury. So there was a lot of like, if you believe, if you can wrap your head around the idea that you can achieve something, it is very doable. Such an abundant new moon that we had in Sag. It's like wild. If you guys didn't check that video out, check it out, because I really feel like it pairs nicely with this full moon, where we realize that once we set our goals, then emotionally everything kind of falls into place with this full moon in Cancer. I want to read to you guys the Sabian symbol, because it's a bit colorful. With the Sabian symbols, obviously, if you're new to my channel, basically we have a book that we work with that has all 360 degrees of the zodiac. It gives us a little blurb, and it's like a little prediction, and it can kind of give us a little bit more flavor of what that degree is about. Because it is 4 degrees and change, we're going to read 5. And so the degree for Cancer 5, or the Sabian for Cancer 5, is a railroad at a crossing. An automobile is wrecked by a train. Interpreting the Sabian symbol involves considering, imaginary imagery and extracting the potential meaning. So it may not necessarily be literal. But here's how I see this. Basically, the theme for me is like knowing when to stop, right? The symbol speaks to compelling a sense of urgency and obligation to complete or finish something that has been started or set in motion. In a broad sense, the symbol speaks to the desire to obtain closure. The image of an automobile wrecked by a train is another one of the reverse symbols, and it dramatically illustrates the dangers of trying to rush things or bring any situation to premature end. The earliest description of the image was a man was a man in an automobile, maddened by the lust for speed, races with the fast train and loses. He is killed. The emphasis here is that the symbol is on self-control, self-preservation, and the need to understand that at all times the ultimate obligation of any individual is to himself rather than the outcome of any objective. The seeker is ill-advised to continue any course of action at this point. And at its highest, it represents remarkable talent for finding solutions to difficult problems by reevaluating prior experience in terms of current needs. Watch for a tendency towards obsession that can lead to recklessness, foolish decision-making. The accent is on rushing to finish to get through things. Your greatest advantage lies in knowing when to stop or take a break, stay in control of the situation, and don't be pressured by artificial or self-created deadlines. Guard against endangering your health by living your life on the fast track or forgetting that your first obligation is to yourself. So haste, right? Basically, that's kind of that's my takeaway, at least. For me, the interpretation here, I think with the clashes or the challenges or maybe the reverse symbol is that, we may be feeling at the time of this full moon that we are facing a situation where different elements can come into conflict, potentially, resulting in something that can seem like a wreck or a pileup. It could represent a clash of energies, ideas, or paths that need careful navigation. Watch for warning and caution, okay? Obviously, with full moons in general, we see this climax of energy. Emotions can run high, but even more so when it's in its home sign in Cancer. And for me, I don't think it's necessarily like about warnings. I think it's about tapping into your intuition and like knowing when to be like, okay, enough is enough. But the wreck in itself could serve as a cautionary symbol, suggesting the need to exercise and pay attention to potential dangers and conflicts in your current endeavors. Now, the intersection, right, the idea of the train meeting with the vehicle can symbolize the idea of crossing paths, which can be seen as, encountering crucial decisions, pivotal moments in your life. It encourages awareness and an intersection of choices in your journey. And for me also, like when I think about the movie, right, bringing back The Wizard of Oz, all of these situations where Dorothy was having to go through all of these different encounters and experiences and feeling peril at certain moments, but being able to overcome. See, so much about this degree is about overcoming. It's about learning from challenges. And while the symbol may seem negative, it also implies the potential for learning from the challenges and the setbacks. It encourages resilience and the ability to navigate through difficult situations. Now, for me, when I think of Cancer and like the magic of Cancer, I think about learning to trust intuition, right? Learning to tap into our moods. And really paying attention to what our emotions are telling us, and that maybe if we're feeling a bit stressed or anxious or worried or emotional, that can be something that we're not always aware of. It could be something that we're not acknowledging. It could be telling us that our intuition is kind of saying that something is off or that we need to pay attention. We do also focus a lot on safety and security with this sign, everything from homeland security to whether or not you lock the front door, to safety and security when it comes to our homes and our families. And I definitely feel like because, Cancer is a water sign, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not active. Of all three of the water signs, this is the only one that's cardinal, so it's initiating. And when we think about, Cancer energy, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, that, summer solstice corresponds with the beginning of summer. So, taking action when it comes to, family or, being with loved ones or being in the home or making our home. Cancer in astrology, or the fourth house connection, really also deals with the womb. So it's something where there is, an energy that is kind of gestating or coming into being before it's actually born once it goes into Leo, because Leo represents the sun, its life. So with the connection to, the fourth house, we're always thinking about the past. There is a sense of reflecting on the past, where we've been, where we've lived, but also our roots and our heritage, our ancestors, where we come from. I see the fourth house, or the IC, is like where the soul comes in through the chart. So it can talk a lot about, what we're reflecting on in a sense of our ancestral lineage, our soul lineage, and also lots of things that might be involving the past, but also things that can be dark and they can kind of be private and they can be secretive. Now, for who this is going to affect the most, obviously, if you have a Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, especially if you have any planets around, I would say, 3, 4, 5 degrees of Cancer. So if you have a personal planet there, the full moon is going to represent some kind of completion in terms of lunar themes in your life, home, family, women. The house is going to tell you more about what's kind of going on and in what area of your life this is going to kind of be taking place. Now, for me, I've been like really more so focused on archetypes recently. I've been trying to really define more about the zodiac through learning more about the archetypes and the ways that this can kind of present itself. So for me, when I think about archetypes of Cancer, I think about the mother or the nurturer. And this could be, you know, like stepmothers, this can be blood relatives, this can be, you know, surrogate moms, this could be, you know, moms who don't have children, but they have like adopted kids. And this is just about nurturing and mothering in general. So we may feel like there's much more of a need for strong caregiving, you know, instincts during the time of a full moon in Cancer. Maybe we're prioritizing family more and find fulfillment in providing emotional support to others. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, when we're having this full moon, it always kind of revolves around the holidays at the end of the year. So it's always interesting to me that everybody's gathering together, they're having meals, they're sharing it with friends and with family. There is a lot of coming together and reflecting on how the year has gone and also carrying forth some sense of tradition. Super Cancerian in that sense. Coming back to the crab, right? Every time I think about the protector energy, I think of that meme with the crab that's got like the knife, you know, and you see the guy that's trying to kind of catch the crab and the crab's getting kind of saucy. You know, the crab within its shell is the archetype of the protector. And this involves safeguarding oneself and one's loved ones, creating a secure and comforting environment and taking on a defensive stance when necessary. No different than like a mother bear, you know, protecting her cubs, right? Not something you want to mess with. Strong, maternal, protective, but will also like act or react. Cancer, like I said, it's a cardinal sign. So usually, you know, it's not going to react unless you poke the bear. But if you do, you can definitely see that there can be a strong emotional response in regards to protecting space and loved ones. Obviously, the homemaker is another archetype of Cancer. It's linked to the home and, you know, domestic things. You know, the archetype of the homemaker involves creating a warm, welcoming, and comfortable home environment. And individuals associated with this archetype take pride in maintaining and nurturing their living space. Now, I think more modern, if we think of like other ways this can play out, obviously the lunar explorer, somebody who, you know, has an affinity for cycles, rhythms, and a connection to the mystical or unseen aspects of life. Working with your intuition, working with your emotions in the depths of your subconscious. People who are much more sensitive and consider themselves emotionally sensitive or intuitive because, you know, Cancer is about developing a deeper awareness of your emotions and your ability to empathize with other people's feelings. So this sensitivity can be seen in itself as a sense of strength, but also, you know, vulnerability. The psychic, right? The intuitive seer. Cancer's connection to intuition and the moon can be associated with this archetype of psychic and intuitive seers. So, you know, usually individuals who are influenced by this archetype may have a heightened sense of intuition, dreams, or psychic abilities. You know, I think about, you know, some of the charts that I've seen that have really strong Cancer signatures or fourth house signatures. And these are people who may carry on a family lineage of healing or, you know, mystical kind of tradition. They may come from a long lineage of people who have, you know, sensitive individuals who kind of have that sixth sense, right? And then the protector of traditions. I think this is another big thing because, you know, Cancer is tied to tradition in the past. So the archetype of the protector in traditions involves a sense of like reverence for history, for heritage, preservation of cultural values, and you know, this is about having a strong connection to your ancestors and to your roots. Okay. Now, if we look back at you know, the new moon that we had in Cancer, like I said, this is that completion of that. So we go back in time and we look at the new moon that we had in the summer, which was right here. And this was a new moon on July 17th, 2023. So this is when we planted these seeds for now this full moon. So, you know, new moons, we set those intentions in that area of our life. We express it through the energy of Cancer. So maybe some of the intentions we were setting over the summer were very emotionally fueled. This was also in like a Piscean degree. So we were dreaming maybe about changes about home. We were, you know, manifesting. We were, you know, dissolving old traditions, welcoming new traditions. So lots of aspects involving Uranus and Neptune. So there was a lot of both building and making changes structurally to things and then responding to how that makes us feel, or financial changes, which was impacting our home or our families. And then the trines to Neptune was about releasing, dissolving, but also connecting, tapping in. Right at the height of getting ready to see Venus retrograde and, you know, some other wild things that were happening with some squares to the fixed signs. And so I definitely feel like a lot of the home and family changes are really kind of coming off of the backs of what's been a really challenging summer for relationships, for finances. And so for some of us, there can be this sense of relief with this full moon in Cancer. That's like it all worked out, or we got moved, or everything got sorted out, or now I'm finally like making peace with what happened. So for me, it's really nice the way that it's kind of smoothing out all of the edges of what's kind of been some tricky astrology 6 months ago. Now, when I think about just generally a Cancer full moon, so just as a reminder, we only get this full moon once a year. So if you are having this as a natal Cancer, sun, moon, or rising, it's a big energy for you that you always get at the end of the year. The full moon in general is always a combination of the sun and the moon being in opposition to each other. So it has them in this polarity to the axis that also mirrors one another, right? I really truly believe that the zodiac is really 6 signs. You just see polarity of the 2, so that gets divided into 12. And where Cancer and the moon is about home, family, and the past, the sun in Capricorn is about tradition. It's about responsibility. It's about working. It's about career, reputation, our roles out in society. So there is this sense of seeing the polarity between what we need at home and also what we're needing out in the world professionally or in terms of our public reputation. So generally, this is a time where a lot of people are like off of work, right, for the holidays, unless you're in the service industry or, if you happen to be in like travel. Obviously, this could be a very busy time for you, but for a lot of other people, this is a time where things are kind of winding down and there's a sense of maybe pulling a little bit away from the day-to-day responsibilities. And so that's beautiful, especially in the midst of what is a Mercury retrograde. So we're experiencing a Mercury retrograde now. It started in Capricorn. It's going to be going retrograde back into Sagittarius. So there's a lot of reflecting on, if we take a step back away from work and what we're doing out in the world, and we're focusing more on what's going on at home. Some people are going to be celebrating differently. Some people are going to be traveling. Some people are going to be making changes to what their goals are for the new year. But I think that, this new moon in general, a full moon especially, but especially in Cancer, is seen to be a time that is emotionally, it has a lot of depth and a lot of sensitivity. This is a time for emotional release. So you may find that you're much more sensitive than usual. You're much more likely to kind of shed tears or tears of joy or, be expressing your emotions and telling people how you feel because the full moon is like this build up. So emotions generally come to the surface during the full moon. We do see that because of the opposition to the sun. But I think even more so now. So it's really important to see this as an opportunity for emotional release and healing, and a time to acknowledge and express feelings, allowing for a cathartic experience if it is time to kind of release and let something go. I will say that the universe really supports this with the astrology when we get into the aspects, and it really holds space for people to be able to do that. Nurturing and healing, obviously, because of that connection to Cancer, but I think that this full moon encourages a focus of self-care and nurturing activities. So it's about connecting with your inner selves, finding comfort, engaging in healing practices, and doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, right? Especially with that sun in Capricorn. It's not just about the moon, it's where the sun is kind of shining on something. So it can talk about one of our responsibilities is taking care of us too. And that connection to home and family, because we're going to see a highlighted focus on domestic matters, it's an excellent time to strengthen bonds with family members, create harmonious home environments, and reflect on the importance of your roots. Pay attention to a heightened sense of psychic abilities or intuition. This is going to be very strong with some of the water trines that we're experiencing at the time of the full moon. This moon might amplify these abilities and provide insight to your inner self. And I would say definitely pay attention to dreams, intuitive nudges, and gut feelings. Watch for the opportunities to release old patterns because, full moons are generally considered a time of completion. But in Cancer, it involves, releasing old emotional patterns or attachments that no longer serve you. And it's seen as an opportunity for personal growth and transformation. Now, also something that I like is that, full moons in general show us the opportunity to balance out energies. Both Capricorn and the moon are feminine. And because Cancer, is in its receptive sign, the full moon is highlighting the balance between, like I said, these two 4th house, 10th house themes. But it can also be about parenting, right? It can be about relationships between, mother and father, husband and wife, these types of like pairings that we see where there's masculine and feminine energy. So parenting responsibilities, more time with parents, more time, practicing and taking care of your family or your kids can also be a theme. And the whole balance part is about learning to integrate these two energies within yourself and finding a sense of wholeness and balance. So whether, you're masculine or feminine, it doesn't really matter. It's about finding a way to be able to say, well, if I've been doing a lot of work out in the world, how can I bring some of that harness and bring some of that in where I can be doing just as much work for myself emotionally? Or if you've been kind of, cancering out and an unwillingness to venture out and connect with other people, or an unwillingness maybe to get back into the swing of work or, be focusing on responsibility. If you've been going through like a healing phase, this can represent getting ready to emerge and kind of come back into the public sphere. And also, a huge theme I think with this moon is going to be connecting with water. Because Cancer is a water sign, it is about the flow of emotions. Water is associated with purification and cleansing. With some of the water aspects, we've got a trine to Saturn, we've got a Venus trine Neptune, we've got also a Pluto-Neptune sextile that's still happening. There's a lot happening within the water signs. And so I feel like this is a really important time to connect with water elements such as ritual baths, spending time near water, practicing water-based, meditations, doing some home cleaning and purification and blessing of your home. It's a wonderful time to do that with a full moon in Cancer. Now, if we take a look at the aspects, aside from, the moon being in its home sign, right? So it's going to be most comfortable. It's playing with home field advantage. The moon is also at a 4, so this is like doubly Cancerian. I like that one of the moon's strongest aspects is going to be a trine to Saturn and a sextile to Jupiter. Now, when you think about this, we've got Saturn sextile Jupiter, and Saturn's now direct. So Saturn in Pisces is seeing through much more of a sense of having firmer boundaries, practicing sobriety, being a little bit more aware of the subtle energies that affect us intuitively or emotionally. Maybe taking time to pause and reflect and, take time to meditate or reevaluate what some of our goals are and what we want to let go. The better that we're able to change our physical reality, the more that we're able to, with the sextile to Jupiter, bring in physical abundance, bring in physical change, have a significant shift in regards to our resources, to better impact our self-esteem. And then we've got Jupiter that's going to be sextiling the moon. So the more that we're staying grounded and we're able to feel like we have what we need, Jupiter in Taurus can very much be about, sustenance and food and resources and things that are going to help us feel secure so we can emotionally unwind, right? So we can open up, so we can be vulnerable. So there's this sense of with this, a little bit of finding your quiet space, whether it's your favorite reading corner or if it's, comfy spot on the couch, or it's going to be somewhere where you're crawling into bed and getting ready to watch movies and you have that sense of, okay, everything feels good. I feel safe. I feel secure. I have what I need. Then you can really kind of unwind and you can heal, or you can rest, or you can, kind of connect. This is about food being nourishing. This is about stability, providing for emotional openness. This is about how positivity and, healthy self-esteem can allow us to better kind of tap into emotions and recognize and realize where our emotions are trying to tell us something. It's a beautiful aspect all around. And I really feel like, the strongest aspect is outside of the sextile to Jupiter is the trine to Saturn, right? Because Saturn is traditionally associated with Capricorn. So to see, the moon in Cancer in positive aspect with Saturn, that's like chef's kiss in my opinion. It's really positive. And so for me, Saturn is providing that emotional stability and structure at the time of the full moon. And I see this as a time where it's manifesting as disciplined and responsible approach to dealing with emotions. Feeling emotionally well supported, feeling that emotions are, coming up for a reason, but we're able to kind of get closure. And so closure in itself could also bring us some sense of feeling emotional, outbursts, feeling relieved, or, finally being able to have that conversation with somebody, or finally being able to kind of put something to rest, finally, being able to come home. I think a lot of people may experience this season, like after not being able to see relatives for a while, finally being able to return home and celebrate the holidays. That trine to Saturn, in Pisces does talk about maybe even like burying the hatchet in some ways and being like, let's let the past be in the past. Like, it is what it is. Let's just focus on being able to move forward, because that full moon gives you that sense of completion. And Pisces is about releasing, dissolving, and letting something go. So we may find that there's an opportunity to practice forgiveness and to kind of, let things go where there's been some issues, especially on a personal or on like a family level, right? We can also see this as like practical manifestation of emotions, because Saturn is about practicality and manifestation, and Pisces is like this dreamy kind of intuitive energy. So the aspects suggest that there may be a balance between emotional expression and the practical application of these emotions. So it's considered to be a favorable time for turning emotional insights into tangible action and results. And I would say that even more so because of the sextile to Jupiter. It's kind of like, these are the emotions that are coming up for me. This is what I feel like I need to do about it. Okay, this is what I need to do to feel better. And so I think that, for many of us, some of the events that may come up during the full moon give us the opportunity also to have, downloads that give us wisdom, maturity in emotional matters, because Saturn is connected to maturity. And the trine is suggesting that in a mature and wise nature, we are handling emotional situations. And that the alignment may support a grounded and realistic perspective on one's feelings. So we're not seeing that kind of like hysterical, sometimes full moon energy where we feel like unhinged. I'm not seeing that with the aspects from the moon. I'm seeing some unhingedness from Mercury and Neptune, but we'll get to that in a second. This is also about spiritual discipline and, learning how to tap into the discipline of Saturn, the compassion. I think of planets in Pisces and a harmonious blend of spiritual understanding and practical application of spiritual practices. So it's a time where spiritual practices may bring a sense of emotional stability. Like, I'm really liking this moon for, home blessing, purification, cleansing, clearing out, family karma, being able to, put things to rest, being able to honor relatives or ancestors who have passed who are no longer with us. I think that can be a wonderful way of being able to celebrate this moon. And steady progress and personal growth. So if anything, Saturn's going to provide steady growth. And full moons are associated with this realization that something is finally kind of coming to some kind of completion. But I think this is more about emotional and spiritual development. Obviously, if this is falling in, water houses for you, it may be a different situation. So just hang tight. I'll take you guys through the 12 signs. But this could involve facing challenges with resilience and gaining valuable insights, right? And that's what Saturn does. It wants to teach you something. So when you see sextiles and trines to Saturn, usually that's when your hard work is paying off. The squares are going to represent, whether or not we're actually falling in alignment with what Saturn wants us to do. Now, that moon in a sextile to Jupiter, right? And Jupiter is getting ready to station. And while, the moon is at home in Cancer, Taurus is the sign of the moon's exaltation, right? And also Jupiter. So we see that in both situations. There is a strong connection just beyond the sextile that's basically saying the more that we're tapping into our emotions, the more that we're able to get that richness of stability and security. It may mean that there are some things that money can't buy, that, some of these experiences that we're having with home and family, it may mean that We're receiving the gift of a peaceful household, right? We're receiving the gift of a relative we haven't seen in a while. We're maybe experiencing a sense of abundance and wealth because we have family visiting, or we have gift exchange going on in a time where that's not easy for a lot of people. So for me, there's like these very humble qualities to Taurus and Cancer that is about getting back down to basics and being able to have appreciation for what you do have, not focusing on what you don't have. And so I think that there can be this sense of feeling overjoyed, and also relieved as we get to the end of the year that things actually seem very, very, very sweet. We've also got the Sun in Capricorn that's trine Jupiter as well. Okay, so we've got the Sun trine Jupiter, and you're going to see this like the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, right around the full moon time. And this is when the Sun is aligning with Jupiter. And what this is going to produce with that Sun in Capricorn is a sense of responsibility, dedication, hard work, trining Jupiter. Oh, it's paying off. I can't tell you how many people I've heard over the last like 2 weeks who have been like, I'm so relieved. I didn't think I was going to get a raise, and I got one. I didn't think I was going to get a Christmas bonus, and I got one. I didn't think I was going to keep my job in the midst of layoffs, and I did. This moon, I think, is going to continue that to some extent. It's still going to give some people some sense of hope about, future financial situations, about future job situations. And I'm loving that Jupiter is getting ready to station. We're going to see right at the end of December. Finally, Jupiter is going to go direct. We're going to start to reap the benefits of that. It's at that 5 degree where we had an eclipse just recently in Taurus. And I remember saying to you guys, watch what happens, because it'll be a whole month of Jupiter stationing at 5 degrees. And when we're sitting at 5 degrees, and then when it stations and it goes direct, it'll still be there until about mid-January. So we're still reaping some of the goodness and some of the sweetness, I think, of that Taurus eclipse. Then we've got Venus in Scorpio, which is going to be, obviously it's in its fall, but it's in a trine to Neptune, and it's in a sextile to Pluto. Okay, and so we've got Venus being the ruler of the South node. So while she's going through Scorpio, she's still going through that intense change and purification process in relationships. She's, coming out of the oppositions to Uranus, where things have felt a little financially tense or a little staticky. But Venus trine Neptune for me is mystical, right? It's deep, it's soulful. Especially in the sign of Scorpio, there can be some sense of mystery and magic that comes with that, and feeling like very divinely inspired. And then we see, like I said, on the other side, Venus sextile Pluto, and Pluto has connections to Scorpio. So Venus is in nice harmony. There is this feeling, though, because Venus is the ruler of the South node and it's trine Neptune, and sextile Pluto, there's a lot of reflecting on, like, okay, where we are and having appreciation for where we are, but maybe needing to, pay homage to who paved the way for us, or what sacrifices other people made, right? Venus in Scorpio, trine Neptune, loved ones and people who we don't have with us during this holiday season. And so I could definitely see with like Venus and Neptune trine, there is this sadness, there is this mourning that's connected to it. That's like, this is what we used to have, or this is who used to be here and they're not. And like still finding ways to honor and integrate and bring some of those traditions, or bringing some of those, relatives still on the other side in with our, continuation of life, and also the holiday season. I see the Mars conjunct Mercury retrograde in Sag is like, it's a shit show. I mean, I've heard a lot of other astrologers talking about this, and I've heard the general consensus that I have heard is that everybody's saying, well, this moon is so positive that it's going to override this Mercury, Mars, Neptune square. Okay. So that's why so much of my video has been about, really the positivity of this moon, because the moon overall is in wonderful harmony. It's in wonderful aspect. However, the one thing that I would say, and this is really also why this came up for me talking about the Wizard of Oz, is I think about just the chaos and just how crazy and just unreal and otherworldly a lot of the things that were in that particular movie. Houses falling on, witches and flying monkeys and little people running around, little creatures. And then you see all these like, fantasy, like lions and tin men and all this stuff. It's very Neptunian, right? It's very kind of otherworldly. And there's also all kinds of different, mannerisms that they have and ways that they communicate. You have a stuttering lion and tornadoes and all kinds of wild stuff, right? very Mercury, Mars, square Neptune. It's kind of like a mad world. And so for me, I was thinking like, wow, like in the midst of when things got really chaotic in The Wizard of Oz, the one thing Dorothy had was those slippers and the ability to say there's no place like home. And she was able to tap into that faith and that belief of the safety and the security of her home base. And that's what got her through the storm. And so it got me thinking like, wow, you know, we're having Mercury in the midst of its retrograde in Sag, which is like, unfortunately, a little bit of a double negative there. You got Mercury in its fall and its retrograde. And then you factor that into a square to Neptune, where it is kind of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and it's coming into this conjunction with Mars. So there can be a sense of there being potentially some harsh words just with that conjunction in itself. But the square to Neptune is also kind of like, once again, lost in translation, not understanding, things being kind of miscommunicated. And it's got me thinking about like what's going to come up during this full moon, right? Because Cancer is the past and retrograde is to return. So looking at past transgressions, looking at, you know, words and things that we've said, past conflicts that we've had. Mars square Neptune is what are we fighting for? You know, we should be making way for peace or possible, you know, alliances or, you know, resolution. We're not supposed to be continuing this confusion and, you know, perpetuating war. Right now, as I film this, you're seeing lots of stuff going on with, you know, Zelensky meeting in the White House and meeting with Biden, and you know, kind of doing his tour where he's going and meeting with a lot of companies and contractors that are associated with making, you know, things for war. And so it got me thinking about the Mercury Mars of, you know, the foreigner who's returning and kind of connecting with people, trying to still kind of beat on this war drum, Mercury Mars. When I talked about it in my video for Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, I talked about the haka, if you guys remember that, and how it was this combination of like this cultural tradition, Sagittarius, and the words within their native language, Mercury and Sag, and then the conjunction to Mars, you know, like that warrior energy. So many people sent me, I guess there was somebody in like parliament or within their like political group, I don't know what they would call it in New Zealand, that were meeting, and it was before they were supposed to sign something over where they were essentially pledging allegiance to the royal family. And they did a haka in session before they did that, essentially saying like, you know, like, fuck you, you know, like we're in tune with our, you know, native lineage, and we support ourselves first. And it was like basically giving the middle finger in session. But, and so it was cool to see that manifest. So those of you guys who sent it to me, thank you. Because it lets me know that my interpretations are definitely what I'm seeing and receiving. But we're seeing now through the retrograde that it's coming back through similar degrees, and now it's coming into conjunction with Mars and square Neptune. So what are you fighting for? Why are we fighting? Why did we even have a fight to begin with? Why were we ever not talking? You know, did I really say that? I didn't know if I don't think I meant it like that. Or maybe instead of the confrontational or it can also be a little condescending and Sag kind of behavior. There can be the sense of, instead of being like, hey, I'm going to fight because I know everything or I know it all, it's the sense of being able to kind of put that aside and be like, you know, making up or being in good harmony with other people can be more important than being right. And so I think that is the potential medicine of planet square Neptune is like, are you going to, you know, wage war, or are you going to, you know, wave the white flag and can we surrender? Can we have peace? I think this is going to represent, you know, conflict between action and illusion, because there may be a conflict between direct and assertive approach of Mars and Sag and the idealistic and sometimes illusionary tendencies of Neptune and Pisces. And this could lead to situations where actions are not grounded in reality, and there's a risk of overestimating or underestimating one's abilities. Now, even though this has nothing to do with the full moon, it has everything to do with the North Node. And coming into this full moon, Mars has been in a trine to the North Node. So we are focused on moving forward towards our life direction. We're becoming more, in some ways, impatient. We want less boundaries, right? Sagittarius, we want more adventure, we want more freedom. But also there is this kind of freedom call that comes with Mercury in Sagittarius, especially conjunct Mars. It's like this like rebel yell of, you know, you're not going to tell me what to do, especially the trine to the North Node in Aries. So on one hand, globally, we're going to see this being about, beating the war drum of, oh, well, we need to return back and, we need to do this. But on the other hand, there can be this sense of like the soul really kind of waking up and being like, something's not right here. Or I need to go back and make this right. Or I need to go and really learn more about this. Sagittarius can be about knowledge and quests. Anyway, but watch for the issues with illusions because of the square to Neptune. And, Neptune squares do bring about energy drains as well. So with Mars square Neptune, sometimes it can indicate a changing direction of energy. There can be a tendency to feel drained or uncertain about how to channel one's efforts and leading to a sense of confusion or a lack of motivation. Equally, there can be deceptive actions or motivations, and there can be a potential for misunderstandings to seat unclear motives or actions taken. It's essential for all of us at this time to be aware of the potential for self-deception and deception of others. Now, Mars transits are important because it rules that North Node. So it's like, are you going to fall into the trine of the North Node where you're going to go, actually, I'm going to admit when I was wrong, Mercury, Mars, Mercury retrograde. Am I going to go back and do the research or go and learn or actually do my due diligence and then recognize or realize that the experiences that I'm having are teaching me a valuable lesson about what? Self-healing, self-awareness, taking responsibility for our behaviors, right? We may struggle to define our goals as well because Neptune's influence might blur the clarity of the goals or the objectives. So it's really important with this aspect to be cautious about setting realistic, achievable goals because there might be a tendency to pursue overly idealistic or impractical aims. Impractical aims, Mercury retrograde and Sag. I think about like the bow and arrow, right? And not having a sense of direction. Recently, having lived in Texas now for a year, taken up going to the shooting range and learning more about just getting my aim right, to be honest with you, learning how to feel confident in doing that. And I've learned very quickly that just pointing and shooting and getting startled with, the sound of the firearm, my aim's pretty terrible when I do that. I can't close my eyes, right? And so it took me a while to kind of get used to that. But it reminds me of the Mars square Neptune, that if we kind of get thrown off by the loud bangs or if we get thrown off by the conflict or things are kind of getting startled around us, if we close our eyes, we can't really see where we're going, right? We're missing that target. Sagittarius is about bow and arrow, right? It's about archery and being able to kind of hit that target right on. So there's going to be a lot of noise out in the world, I think, that's going on with this Mercury-Mars conjunction. I think it's meant to be distracting people. I think it's meant to be keeping people from feeling peaceful at home with their families. I think it's meant to keep people feeling on edge, to keep us in that perpetual fear cycle of nothing is safe, you can't enjoy this, you can't enjoy that, or, oh, we're scaring you, into feeling like it's not safe to travel. I've said this many times. I'm not trying to fear monger, but Mercury, Mars, conjunct in Sagittarius square Neptune is going to be some insane weather, especially the second half of December. So I'm filming this around the 13th. But by the time you're seeing this full moon come through, my goodness, there's going to be some really extreme weather because we see that with mutable squares. But we may see issues with airports. And it's been so interesting, Sagittarius season, to see so much stuff coming up about September 11th and the repercussions post 9/11 and, the Patriot Act and other things that we just kind of blindly were like, yes, we need to do this, which resulted in a slow, 20-year systematic stripping of our freedom and our rights. Everything from having our stuff searched at the airport, which I don't really think anybody's opposed to. But it goes further than that, tapping into our personal information, surveying Americans, being able to be determined as a domestic terrorist is just like, yeah, it's crazy. We've heard more about that missing Malaysian Airlines. People keep asking me to do a video on that, maybe. But this is very that Mercury, Mars, feeling like we're under attack by some culturally diverse enemy and some misunderstanding or mistranslation or miscommunication. I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and I'm an American, but I've been thinking a lot about just the connection to media, and that we've heard this repetitive, perpetual, this country is bad, that country is bad, they're trying to sabotage, they're trying to steal elections, or there's going to be a cyber attack from this country or whatever. It doesn't matter, fill in the blank. And then I think about how the people who own the media, right? They own the media. So whether you want to say it's, majority investments of BlackRock or Soros companies or whatever, who own these major media companies in the United States, control the narrative, okay? And if you really do your due diligence and you kind of dig a little bit deeper, and you start to see that these people who own the media are also heavily invested in, stocks and trades and things that would potentially make them a lot of money if there was war, right? With any country. It doesn't matter if it's issues with Ukraine, if it's Russia, if it's China. And so I got just to thinking about this and being like, wow, it's so fascinating that we can have people who can really kind of have such an influence that can kind of, create this storyline that gets everybody kind of riled up and believing everything that we're seeing on the news or on screens, right? Pisces. I think we're going to see a return of this. I think that we need to be asking ourselves whether or not we're being asked to jump on the bandwagon and just have blind allegiance to certain events or certain movements, certain things involving war, but it can also be cultural or religious clashes. I really feel like with Mars square Neptune, nobody wins because Mars has to produce some sense of like brute force, and Neptune identifies as like a victim. And in these signs, it comes down to a clash of culture and geography and religion and belief and education. And yeah, you're just going to see a lot of this. And I would say if you fall into the squares, you might say something you regret. Something could be taken the wrong way. You could be talking about something you have no idea what you're talking about. Or you can go into the full moon trine Saturn where you can take a step back and go, okay, I'm going to take a breather. Let me sleep on this before I react, right? Let me do my research. Let me look a little bit, more into finding the source. Let me really look at the photo. Let me see if there's been something manipulated with the image. And also decide maybe to say, I'm shutting that out, right? Because Pisces energy is really good about saying, I'm shutting out from the world, but Cancer is saying, I'm sheltering, I'm protecting. And so really it's like, don't let the events of the world take away from your sense of feeling safe and committed and spending time with your home and your family or your friends or your dog or your roommates, whoever that you're spending time with, because it's trying to disrupt something revolving around safety and security. Now, I think the positive is that, we do have the opportunity here, to use this tension in a good way. There can be a sense of, creativity and imagination with Neptune squares. We may find that it gives us the opportunity to have imaginative ways to approach challenges, especially by learning to balance idealism with practicality. I think the Mars trine the North Node is taking actions towards our goals. We want to see Mercury come into conjunction with Mars. We'll see that a couple days later. Let me show you that. So going into the 27th, so this will be the next day, we're going to see then the moon in Cancer square Chiron. So we are emotionally responding to our own personal wounds or feeling separate or isolated. The moon's going to square the nodes, so there is a karmic day on tap on the 27th. This full moon energy ain't done until the moon ingress into the sign of Leo. Then we are going to see Mercury and Mars come into conjunction. So this is that grand conjunction that I keep telling everybody about. That's like there's going to be something hidden or some kind of false flag attack or something that is going to involve something that's being misrepresented. That's going to put the moon in a position of feeling like it needs to act or it needs to react. And then we're going to see Mars square Neptune on the 28th. And then we're going to see the moon oppose Pluto. So it's like the 26th, the 27th, the 28th. These are high tension days, not just because of the full moon. So personally, I don't subscribe to the idea that a really positive full moon is going to counterbalance some of that Mercury-Mars stuff. Because Mars rules the North Node, and I'm more concerned with what Mars is doing, quite frankly, than a full moon, because Mars is paving the way for what we're meant to be kind of doing. And so you want to be taking time to say, you know what, I'm willing to rethink something. I'm willing to go and do my research. I'm willing to maybe scale back from getting angry or from reacting, and be mindful that, that full moon can produce a lot of emotions where we can say things or we can do things where even our emotions can be misplaced, right? We could be taking it out on somebody and they may not understand why we're saying or behaving the way that we're behaving. And maybe with that moon trine Neptune, rather than putting ourselves in positions where we're feeling like we're being bombarded and people are kind of getting argumentative and asking us why we're retreating, we just retreat. We say, you know, I just need some time. Give me 10 minutes. I'll get back to you tomorrow, right? I just need to take a nap, whatever, to be able to, I think, kind of better deal with some of those energies. So watch for being in your feelings, walking things back, and be mindful that we're really going to be feeling this energy clear until the 28th. And the finale, I think, is going to be when that moon hits 29, that anaretic degree, and it's going to oppose Pluto. Okay, we're going to see 29, 29, 29, right? Oh man, wait for this Pluto video that I've got coming out for you guys. We're going to talk about that too. Pluto's at the anaretic degree, so, you know, does that have anything to do with the moon? Maybe towards the end, but, you know, this is where Pluto's coming in as like this destroyer. You know, the anaretic degree is about the destroyer. It can talk about totally changing or transforming something. So the Capricorn area of our life is really kind of a hot topic the next month or so. With Pluto hitting 29 degrees, the sun will come into conjunction with Pluto as both of them ingress into Aquarius, and we're going to see a retrograde in Capricorn. We're going to see Mars going into Capricorn. So there's something here that is about long-standing top-down power structures, things that have always had power over us or some kind of control, something that's been resistant to change. It's really kind of going through it at this time. Like I said, you know, because this is a water sign, I recommend working with water, you know, at the time of the full moon, soaking, clearing, washing, cleansing, you know, perfect time for taking time to meditate, rest, or reflect. Practicing psychic or emotional boundaries. That's a big one. I keep telling people, everybody's like, why am I so exhausted? Why am I so tired? I'm like, Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces. People are wiped, but people are also kind of getting hit with this like spiritual warfare, right? Whether it's stuff we're watching on television or if it's energies or frequencies. Remember, this is all sextiling Jupiter and Uranus. So vibration, you know, 5G, if you believe in that stuff, stuff that's plugged in. I mean, this is time to like really be working with our shungite, to be constantly clearing our energy, to be practicing some sense of spiritual practice, right? And it doesn't matter if it's prayer, because I think prayer can be universal. If it's meditation, if you want to read scripture, I could definitely see, you know, a lot of people who are returning to that, right? Especially with the squares to Neptune. In recent weeks, I've noticed a slew of clients that have been like, well, you know, I was born, you know, Catholic, or I was born Christian, and I kind of fell out of it. And then I got into spirituality, and now I'm into astrology, and now I don't feel really right going back to that because I don't subscribe to organized religion because it's against that. To each their own. I personally, having a background in, you know, like religion, I think it's so fascinating that people who are super, super religious or orthodox have issues with divination, when the Bible in itself is an entire book of spells, and it was written by prophets. Granted, they were men, they weren't women, right? But there's something to be said about, you know, being a soothsayer and somebody who really divines by looking at, you know, what the energies and the stars or whatever your system is says to guide other people. After all, you know, in the spirit of Christmas, the three wise men followed the North Star. That's how they found Jesus, right? And it wasn't during Christmas. It was definitely during kind of like that Aries, Pisces kind of combo. But they followed that star, and they knew that it was the birth of a king, because alignments were taking place in Aries. It was the birth of a king, the crown, Aries. And they brought, right, herbs, spices, no, not KFC, but they, you know what I mean, incense, whatever, gold, on camels, supposedly, you know, for the birth of this king. So you've got a bunch of people that are getting on camelback, that are bringing a bunch of essentially valuables to a child because they saw a star. Okay, so you don't believe in prophecy, all right. But you get what I'm saying. We're going to see some of these philosophical kind of debates with Mercury, Mars, square Neptune. People who feel a little confused or unsure. Definitely a lot of people who are being made believers right now, seeing what's going on in the world, because they're genuinely starting to see some of the omens and symbols of end times manifesting. But perhaps maybe it was kind of designed that way. You know, I think to get people to be fearful of, you know, the end times, when in reality it's just the fall of the old system, the beginning of the new one. If you guys are wanting to find ways to better kind of calm your energies during this full moon, Do consider working with jasmine. I think that can be really beneficial for Cancer energies. It uplifts your mood, and also it's like a kind of like a nighttime flower, so it's very connected to the moon. I also like sandalwood, especially if you're trying to ground your energy and work with meditation. Vanilla can also be really great, whether it's like adding it to stuff that you're cooking or drinking, or if you want to have a candle going. And ylang ylang is also great for mood balancing and a sense of well-being. With that being said, let me take you guys through the predictions for the 12 rising signs. As always, I am a Western astrologer, so I practice Western astrology. I'm going to be showing you guys the whole sign method for the 12 rising signs. Listen to your ascendant sign, and then your sun sign, and then your moon sign. Everybody should be listening to their moon sign with this one because it's a full moon in the sign of Cancer. And remember that it's not just where the full moon is. That particular house is where you're seeing that completion. But we're going to see energy that's being pulled from Jupiter, right, which is helping expand, and Saturn, which is helping kind of stabilize. So we want to do more. We want to add more depth when we're looking at astrology. We don't just want to say, oh, it's in the first house or it's in the fourth house, so this is what happens. Not necessarily, okay? And don't lose sight of the Mars Neptune stuff as well. But you can go watch the Mercury retrograde video for that. I won't get too preachy with Mercury and Sag. All right, so I've got some stuff to talk to all of the 12 signs about. If you don't want to use whole sign, that's okay. Personally, I like to use Placidus. I'm a bit of a rebel myself. So look for where 4 degrees of Cancer is in your chart. That is where you're going to be seeing that full moon. You can also use your progress chart. Choose your own adventure. All right, so we're going to start with Aries and Aries rising. What's going on, guys? You're going to be experiencing a full moon in the sign of Cancer. Let's pull that full moon up, shall we? All right, so we're going to be doing it in the 4th house. So the moon is at home in the 4th house in its own sign. I'm sure a lot of the things I was saying you resonate with. But basically, this is the part of your chart that deals with home and family. So this is a highly potent placement for this full moon because it's connected to this house. Emotions related to family, home, and roots are going to be really the focus. It's a time for deep emotional connections with family members and addressing any issues relating to your home life. Now, keep in mind that we are going to be seeing the moon, which is going to be in a sextile to Jupiter. So there is this sense of feeling abundance, security, stability, feeling safe and valued when it comes to home and family. We are also going to be seeing that this moon is trining Saturn in the 12th house. So we've got water trines happening in water houses, and Saturn rules your home and your career. So I feel like there is like this bittersweet energy with this for you, Aries, where it's like the full moon's at home, family's all together, but also reflecting on what has changed. And I don't know if it's like the absence of a family member, the absence of a parent. It can represent the absence of, an old way of doing things or tradition that's not being kind of continued. It may mean that you're like, well, this is the last time we're having, the holidays in this home, or maybe you're just feeling like really sentimental because you know that this might be one of the last holidays that you're having with somebody in the family. Okay, not to get like ominous, but Saturn deals with older age. And so there can be this sense of like wanting to integrate older relatives into some of your celebrations. But also, like, full moons in general are about completions. So some of you guys will have just moved prior to the end of the year. Some of you guys are closing on a home, or you're moving into a new apartment. Some of you guys are putting the finishing touches on like decor. It really depends. But what I can tell you is this, there is a lot of things that are getting ready to change in terms of your professional life. A Mercury retrograde there. You've also got Pluto changing signs. Mars is going into your 10th house. You're going to have a lot of work, but work can wait. Be more present with what's going on with your family right now and really enjoy the time that you have with the people who you have it with. The card that I got for you is the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so the Knight of Pentacles is all about what's practical, reliable, stoic, slow and steady, hardworking, committed, grounded, patient, efficient, and conservative. This can be about a Taurus. It can be about a Virgo or a Capricorn that's coming in. Sometimes during the full moons, you can see some kind of, somebody coming in who has that sign. So it can involve a Capricorn in some way, wanting to kind of connect or maybe bringing something valuable After all, the sextile is to Jupiter. So somebody can be, you know, bearing something valuable. Sometimes it's just their presence. It doesn't have to be about money. But this can also be that there's some positive news coming out about your job. But I wonder if that has to do with the Sun trine Jupiter, where there's something changing at work and it's making you feel more generous or more secure when it comes to the end of the year. Okay? Good luck, Aries. Looks like a good one for you. I like that. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You are going to be experiencing this full moon in Cancer in your natal 3rd house. For you, Taurus, this is about communication and learning. So, you know, your emotions may influence communication and learning experiences. It's time to express your feelings with siblings or close friends and explore emotional intelligence in your daily interactions. So the moon's at home in the 3rd house. The 3rd house can also be about short distance trips. It can be about learning. It could be about completing something. Like learning a language. It can be about some kind of trip maybe you have with a sibling. I also feel like this could be about moves or movement. So some Taurus and Taurus risings might have just completed a move or finishing moving. That can happen as well. The sextile to Jupiter in your sign is about being more positive and more optimistic and realizing and recognizing the impact that that has on your relationship with other people and also how you communicate. And we're also going to see this form a trine to Saturn in your 11th house. So I feel like for you, Taurus, the full moon can represent like communications and connections with people who are supporting you, who are encouraging you, people who are congratulating you and like really kind of talking to you about, you know, how you've been able to achieve your goals. And so, you know, expect lots of phone calls, emails during the time of this full moon. Can things come up with vehicles or travel or contracts during a full moon? Yes. But it looks like you're either optimistic about some of the changes or you've got somebody who you can call who can kind of lend a helping hand. You've also got on the back burner the Sun in the 9th house trine your ascendant. So it seems like things are really opening up for you. It seems like things are really happening for you. The only thing that you really want to think about is that you are getting ready to experience Venus going into your 8th house and it's going to square Saturn. So it looks like maybe some travel expenses, you know, maybe there's some changes going on in terms of like your resources, but overall you're looking at things and you're like, I can't complain, things are pretty good. And when in doubt, if something comes up during the full moon, it looks like you'll be able to call a friend who's going to be able to kind of have your back. And really everything comes down to your perspective. I think the moon sextile Jupiter is really saying, you know, the shift in the way that you look at life or your faith and how it influences how you think and communicate is so important. The card that I got for you is the 5 of Swords, okay? Which can represent disagreements, competitiveness, things where you're feeling defeated or intimidated or you're experiencing some kind of stress. Intuitively, I do feel like that's been the case with Venus in opposition to Uranus. There's been a little friction maybe between you and another person. But Venus dipping into the 8th house, changing signs, is also going to bring some kind of change or transformation. So what I like personally is, you know, full moons in the 3rd house, like if you need to have a heart-to-heart conversation and be like, hey, like let's put this behind us, or like let's find a way to be able to communicate better, or like let's work through this. It's very possible, especially if you're coming at it from the perspective of, you know, having a goal in mind, right? Knowing that there is some opportunity to have closure or have better understanding or, you know, what have you. And maybe it's about clearing up some of this energy, right, Taurus? Good luck. We have Gemini and Gemini rising. You're going to be experiencing a full moon in Cancer in your natal 2nd house. The 2nd house is all about finances and values and your personal self-esteem. Now, this is about emotional connections to material possessions and financial matters may surface. It's a time to evaluate your emotional attachment to money and reassess your values. Now, the positive here, okay, is that the 2nd house full moon can represent some completion in regards to a financial situation. It can represent a big purchase or having to spend something. You know, the moon will be in a trine to Saturn in your 10th house of career and reputation. So it looks like because of a hard job well done, there is some kind of financial compensation or there is some kind of like payout or like development. We've also seen Mercury that's been retrograding through your 8th house. So if money is due to you, if bonuses are due to you, if something's due to you from another person, likely you're going to get it. And at the time of the full moon, we see Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars. So, there is a sense of going back and forth with other people about what your goals are, what you're hoping to achieve, what you want in relationships. And I think with Saturn trine the moon, it's basically saying like you're really basing a lot of your self-worth based off of how you feel with your financial situation, how you feel at work. And there's a lot of moving parts here. Relationships are changing a lot for you right now. And I think really what you can rely on the most is something that's providing you with some kind of financial security, some kind of stability in that sense. It'll help you kind of like weather the storm with other things that are kind of changing in your life at the moment. Don't lose sight also of the moon sextile to Jupiter, because I feel like this is about knowing if a relationship is changing, if somebody is going away, if somebody is traveling, if something is ending, right? Because we can see endings going on in relationships. You need to have a little bit of faith. This can also be about like working with somebody, working with a spiritual practitioner, a healer, a therapist, somebody who can kind of remind you like you are safe and secure. You can't let other people kind of, sway you energetically. If a relationship comes or goes, you have to be able to focus on yourself and give yourself that security that you need and have a little bit of faith. The card that I get for you is the Star card. I love this. This is all about Aquarius. I think Pluto going into your 9th house, there's some big faith changes anyway. This is about hope, renewal, miracles, rejuvenation, finding your purpose, a sense of direction. It's about spirituality, healing, and inner clarity. Well, that sextile to Jupiter could provide some inner clarity, which could give you more of a healthier sense of security and self-esteem, but also knowing that what you truly have, what's yours, nobody can take from you, right? What you possess, the 2nd house, nobody can take from you. And I think a lot of this is going to be about your job, your reputation, your financial situation, and not letting other people kind of knock you down, okay? Good luck, Gemini. We've got moon in Cancer, 4 Cancer risings. You guys are going to be experiencing that full moon on your ascendant. So this is really big for you guys because it's your ruling planet and it's in your sign. When the moon's in your 1st house, you're moody more than usual. So pay attention to that because the 1st house is yourself. This can be about your emotions and personal identity coming to the forefront. It's a time for self-reflection and understanding of your emotional needs and how they relate to your sense of self. Now, the full moon is in opposition to the sun in the 7th. So there's a lot of what do I feel in regards to my relationship with other people. Mercury's retrograding there as well. So there is a sense on maybe reflecting on what has taken place in relationships or partnerships with others, where maybe some back and forth in regards to working relationships, professional relationships, collaborations, clients, romantic partners is making you feel a certain way. Now, this dynamic between the 1st and the 7th house always shows you where, actions taken with other people have an influence and an impact on you. But, this moon making a sextile to Jupiter makes me feel like you've got friends that support you. You've got community that supports you. Maybe it's about new people coming into your life that provide some sense of joy or positivity or abundance. And I think about the moon trine Saturn, which is also talking about the relationship that you might have with your faith, your spirituality, your beliefs, a teacher, a mentor, maybe even a relationship with somebody at a distance. Maybe that can be happening as well. Maybe you've got, some kind of connection with somebody who lives elsewhere. I think about also for you, just like finally we're going to see Pluto change signs, leave your 7th house. Finally, we're going to see also Mercury will go direct in the new year and start trining Jupiter. So I don't think it's so much just about romantic relationships. I think it could be about your relationships to friends, to groups, to other people, and where you're rethinking like relationships in general, maybe realizing that like good relationships shouldn't necessarily have to be so challenging. They shouldn't have to be so hard. That if you're not finding harmony or what you want in your romantic endeavors, that you're learning to kind of fill your cup through connections that you're having with platonic friends and other people. And maybe your faith when it comes to relationships is shifting a little bit. Full moons in the first house, major completions, right? You can have like major reveals and there can be huge changes with your appearance, your body. Maybe it's about, yeah, just your emotions in regards to relationship past. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. And obviously with some full moons in the first house, this can also represent completing a cycle, pregnancy, or birth. The card that I get is the King of Wands, which is interesting because this is more about like Aries, Sag, and Leo. So the King of Wands can be about a natural born leader. This is about your vision, your boundaries. This is also about being bold, charming, daring entrepreneurs, optimism, and taking control. So there may be this sense of like recognizing where your emotions are coming up and you're like, I have to better manage this, or like, I can't let people get this reaction, you know, or, you know, this is being brought out in me. The moon's in harmony. So if anything, I feel like it's like, you know, you standing up and really tapping into your intuition and recognizing what you have to say or what you have to do can be sending other people for a bit of a tailspin. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. So it might mean that you're having to be a little bit more bold. You're having to be a little bit more daring. I think the trine to Saturn is definitely having you, you know, react in a way that isn't so kind of unhinged. It's going to be more kind of like firm and to the point and having better boundaries with other people. And maybe it's so that way you can kind of show more of that kind of masculine energy. So people are taking you seriously. Okay. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing the full moon in Cancer in your natal 12th house. The 12th house is all about spirituality and your inner life. This is the place of deep introspection and emotional healing. This is really going to be your focus. So you might be feeling like you need some time to kind of be away behind the scenes to heal. It's a time to explore emotional depths and address past emotional wounds and engage in spiritual practices. When I think of like Cancer in the 12th house, I think of like womb healing. I think of past life regression. I think of like decluttering and clearing up like your bedroom and like protecting your sacred space. I think about, you know, past life regression and like tapping into like where we've been in past lives. This particular full moon is interesting, you know, because it's activating for all the fire signs, the water houses. So you've got, you know, a lot of planetary action taking place in your 6th house pretty soon, which is about health, work, and routine. But this is like very kind of gritty and to the point with Capricorn in the 6th. So to have this moon in the 12th balancing that out, that's like, it can't be like all work and no self-care, right? Or all work and no sleep. And the 12th house can have you feeling sleepy or that you need more time to rest and recuperate. Now the moon's in a trine to Saturn, so it does feel serious and like things are changing or shifting in some way. Like you're realizing and recognizing that you're kind of clearing stuff out right now. And you've also got the moon on the flip side that is making a sextile to Jupiter in your 10th. So a lot of like the exhaustion might come from just really working a lot, being on, you know, being a boss or a director, or maybe you're like working hard behind the scenes to see that all of this success is kind of working. And the trine to Saturn is like recognizing and realizing where you need more, right? Saturn in the 8th house might feel like you're not getting enough from other people. So this is much more of a psychic kind of sensitive moon for you than most of the other signs. Great for success with work, more challenging when it comes to feeling like at what cost or what am I giving up in order to have this? And there can be a sense of you feeling a lot of emotions kind of coming up that you're kind of wanting to kind of hide. I think of the 12th house as like hiding away, like in your bedroom or in a cave, like where people can't see you. So take time to be alone, to meditate, to reflect during this particular full moon, and also take a step back and look at what you've been building, right? Don't get so consumed with, you know, not having enough sleep or not having enough money or this, that, and the other. Take a step back and look at what you've built, because there's something that's emerging that's extremely successful, and now it's time for you to kind of rest a little bit. Especially with the retrograde in your 6th house, you gotta watch your health, right? Or maybe you're taking time from work, maybe you're traveling. That could definitely happen in the 12th house. We've got the 4 of Cups. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. That kind of reminds me of the 12th house. Contemplation, you know, apathy, you know, revelation. reevaluation, feeling unfulfilled, missed opportunities, indifferent, disconnect, and feeling a little blue. So if you're feeling this, I'm not surprised with the astrology. I feel like it's about giving yourself that 2 or 3 days to work through the mood and then letting it go, right? You don't want to sit in that. Maybe you just need a little bit more privacy at this time, but I feel like you might be trying to carve out or create that private space somewhere within your home, right? Because that can be your 4th house. So maybe it's just spending a little bit more time in your bedroom. Maybe it's going to be about cleaning and kind of protecting your space and like learning to let this mood pass, and then you'll bounce back. Okay. Good luck, Leo. We have Virgo and Virgo rising. You're going to be experiencing a full moon in Cancer in your natal 11th house. For you, Virgo, this is all about friends and social networks. So emotional connections with friends and social groups are in focus. It's a time for nurturing and strengthening friendships and addressing any emotional issues within your social circles. So full moons in the 11th house can bring parties, gatherings, get-togethers, big changes in regards to home and emotional matters, and your goals relating to that or that of your friends. We're going to see some nice aspects during this full moon. Obviously Cancer is a sign that sextiles you, so it's in harmony with your ascendant, sun or moon. We also see that there is a sextile to Jupiter in the 9th house. So if you happen to be traveling or back home during the time of this moon, it looks like you'll be able to catch some kind of an opportunity to see your friends or spend time with people while you're visiting, or vice versa. We're also going to see the moon is going to be in a trine to Saturn in your 7th house. So something about connecting your goals or your friends with relationships. So for some of you, this can be a real big turning point where relationships are actually becoming more serious. Maybe they're meeting your friends for the first time. Maybe there is a sense of, you introducing them to some of your closest people, your family even. I could see that, Mercury is retrograde in your 4th. So some of you guys are moving or changing homes or something's going on. But it looks like there is some major connection between home and relationships and other people. Could be a relationship with friends. Sure, that could be that as well. But that sextile to Jupiter makes me feel like something about home being on the move and getting resituated and either making friends or meeting new people and feeling like you're a part of a group seems to be the real focus. So if there's stuff that comes up with friends, Mercury has slightly been in opposition to this degree, right? So there is a sense of being like, okay, am I not seeing eye to eye with a friend? How can we reconnect? How can we, kind of have a heart to heart? And I really feel like it is possible to, to better communicate and strengthen the bonds in certain relationships with this particular full moon. The card that I got for you is Strength. That's cool. Strengthening the bonds. Self-love, respect, unconditional love, courage, inner strength, influence, compassion, and inner stillness. I love this. I feel like this is kind of being like, the real people who are supposed to be in my life will be here. And I know that I don't have to do anything to coerce any relationship to stay. They will just be. And for you with Cancer in the 11th house, friends feel like family. Some of you guys live with them, or, you see them regularly, or maybe you spend time with your friends' families. So there is a sense of feeling really deeply connected to them, and also recognizing and realizing that, true friendship, I think, is unconditional. Good luck, Virgo. We have Libra and Libra rising. You're going to be experiencing this full moon in Cancer. It's going to be in your natal 10th house. And for you, Libra, you and the other cardinal signs are definitely feeling this pretty strongly. So pay attention what's happening. The day is revolving around this particular full moon. Now, it's going to be in your 10th house. So this is where emotions in the workplace and the public life are emphasized. It's a time to assess your emotional connection to your career and how it aligns with your life purpose. Now, it's interesting to have Cancer in the 10th house because I do feel like this is like more of like a Saturn energy. But here we see the moon where in the 10th house, it's completing work, completing big projects. It might mean that there's big themes going on revolving around your responsibility or your care for home, for parents, for work. You might still be working clear into the end of the year. And then the moon will trine Saturn. So if you're a Libra or Libra rising who's been working your tail off, like I know most of you guys have, this might represent a time where you're actually seeing like something really positive coming of that. There can be a sense of being like, okay, cool, I've been working hard, now I'm winding down. The trine to Saturn does make me feel like it comes with hard work, dedication, and sacrifice. Saturn is the ruler of your 4th house. So, you know, home maintenance, family maintenance, cooking, cleaning, that kind of stuff can come with the full moon in the 10th in correlation with Saturn in the 6th. This is also managing and taking care of health and responsibilities, maintenance, and all of like the to-dos that you need to do. And then on the other side of this, we've got the moon sextile Jupiter. So for some Libras and Libra risings, there could be some major opportunities professionally at the end of this year. There could be doors that are opening for you in collaboration with other people where you're having access to other people's money, or you have people who want to invest in things, or you have, you know, maybe people who want to give you raises or bonuses, or just having more abundance, right? Jupiter is about to go direct in your 8th house. So whether it's, you know, people you have access to or partnerships, something because of some kind of support that you have from another person financially, it's helping you really grow when it comes to your professional life. If you have any personal planets in Libra around the degrees mentioned, so that 3, 4, 5 degrees, you're going to experience this square. So just pay attention. And also the days following Libra, there's going to be some things that are going to happen work-wise that's going to really be super amazing for your career. But it's going to represent where, in order to have that growth, you have to actually grow with another person, or you're taking on some kind of partnership. Maybe your status is changing in some way. And it's definitely kind of polar opposite to what's going on the home front. The card that I get for you is the 5 of Wands. So for you, this can represent conflicts, disagreements, tension, diversity, aggression, clash of egos, and competition. Competition, it's full moon in the 10th house. Competition, that's a good one. I'm thinking like the trine to Saturn in the 6th house is like learning to rise above and overcome challenges in the day-to-day at work, and some challenges that you might have with some egos in the office space, right? I think about also how Mars rules your relationships, and it's coming into a conjunction with Mercury. So there can be some room for some conflicts or challenges, you know, with partners or with siblings or with neighbors, and how, you know, the full moon is basically kind of saying, okay, I want to feel like I'm getting ahead of this situation. Don't need any tension. Let's find a way to be able to kind of like take care of it, and do the work if necessary. All right, good luck, Libra. Let me know how it goes. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You will be experiencing this particular full moon in the sign of Cancer in your natal 9th house. For you, my Scorpios, Cancer is a fellow sister sign, so it's a water sign. So if you happen to have any sun, moon, rising, or personal placements around 3, 4, 5 degrees of the sign of Scorpio, you will be receiving a trine, which is emotional, sensitive, intuitive, kind of magical. It's not always about physical things, but it can be about emotions flowing better. So the 9th house is the house of higher learning and philosophy. This is about emotional exploration of your beliefs and higher knowledge. It's a time to reflect on how your emotions are connected to your philosophical and spiritual beliefs. Full moons in the 9th, we can see things like travel, we can see completing of programs, admissions to school or colleges, meetings with teachers or mentors. There can be big shifts in your personal belief system or philosophy. Now, what's cool about this is that, you know, Scorpio, you are completing for many, in many different ways, a grand water trine. So if you have any placements around the degrees mentioned, then the moon will trine it personally and Saturn. So there's something that's like about you going through a period of transformation. It's about you changing something about your behavior, your demeanor, about your look. Maybe it's where you're changing your philosophy or your belief on life, and like the impact that it has on your relationship to other people, or even the relationship to yourself. Venus is in your sign as well, and it's trining Neptune. So it does have you feeling romantic, creative, dreamy. So that's a wonderful energy. And then also we see the moon that is trining Saturn in your 5th house of creativity and personal self-expression. So this is like a wonderful time for, you know, getting ready to publish something, or getting ready to start a campaign, you know, planning a vacation. Some of you guys may see that your children are changing schools or going off to college, or they're going to be relocating because of the connection to Saturn in your fifth. This can be about teaching children. This can be about your philosophy about children or connecting with your inner child, a romantic getaway maybe with somebody. And then the sextile to Jupiter is very much about expansion in relationships, abundance in relationships, positivity, new people coming in, meeting people, and how that really shifts your perspective, and it really changes something about maybe your demeanor, right? One thing I think about is that, you and Aries are going to be impacted by some of the events with this full moon, because Mars rules your chart. It's coming into conjunction with Mercury. So it has nothing to do with the full moon, right? The full moon is saying like, look, you're going to have feelings about life changing and about adventure. And you're going to be kind of tapping into this like sense of like, oh, things are getting ready to shift. And with Mercury and Mars coming into conjunction in your second house, there is a sense of sorting and sifting through your values, your finances. You're going back and forth with another person about what you value, what you want to spend money on, what you believe in, what you don't believe in. And you want to just be really careful because it's coming into a square with Neptune. So it can almost like that sense of wanting to argue about little things can actually cause a lot of conflict in relationships and in the ability to imagine and daydream and kind of be more Neptunian. And if you're trying to intellectualize every little thing and pick everything apart, you're losing the opportunity to really focus on the magic of, creativity, fun, exploration, growth within relationships. So just watch for some like money matters, some self-esteem or some investment issues. Be very careful with investments during the time of this full moon, Scorpio, because you may be feeling like something's a good move financially, and then you realize like, it's a bit of a blind spot. You've been kind of going back and forth with this thing for a little while. Since Mercury came into shadow, which was somewhere around like the beginning of December. So there's been some back and forth about a financial matter already. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say. We get the Hierophant. Okay, so that's interesting, Scorpio. Spiritual wisdom, religious beliefs, tradition, convention, conformity, education, knowledge, and belief system. While this is a card that deals with Taurus, right? Jupiter is in Taurus, and this has like a very strong ninth house vibe. So this is something about maybe like what you're learning to believe in, what you're practicing, how you're applying that to your belief system. It can be about shifting the way of what you thought you knew. Cancer is about your intuition. It's like what my gut says, and the ninth house is like, yeah, but what do you really believe in, right? Do you still believe in that? And really with the trines to Saturn it's about believing in yourself, and it's about the way that you communicate and I think kind of express yourself and remaining open to things that can be like more mystical or magical. Maybe the Hierophant's talking about meeting with a teacher or a mentor or somebody who has some kind of spiritual guidance or some kind of like religious, position that can literally tell you what they believe in, or maybe they're divining or doing something for you in that sense. That's very possible here as well. Completing trips, travel, that's generally what we see, publishing or legal matters as well. So if there's anything like that that's going on, the trines to Saturn makes me feel like it's all mind over matter and really taking a look at what you know and maybe even contractual agreements, okay? And if you need a professional, you'll find one. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You're going to be experiencing a full moon in Cancer in your natal 8th house. And this full moon for you is interesting. So first of all, this is a sign that in conjunction or quincunx is your sign. So it can feel a little wonky. But for you, Sagittarius, the 8th house is about transformation and intimacy, okay? Interesting because the 8th house is inherently private, right? It's kind of like a Scorpio energy. And then Cancer is about protecting. So it's about protecting privacy. Deep emotional transformation is possible here. It's a time to explore the depths of your emotions, confront fears, and strengthen emotional bonds in intimate relationships. So maybe there is some like trust fall situations that happen. Maybe there is a sense of having to complete, close, or end something, which you would anyway during a full moon, but with Cancer in the 8th house especially. A lot of reflecting on how home or family has changed. And, this particular full moon, it trines Saturn in your 4th house. So Sag, what has recently changed in your home? What has shifted? How do you feel about that? How has it been impacting your sense of security or your sense of, intimacy or vulnerability? 8th house is other people's money. So this can also represent, where taxes or loans or, partners' resources actually influence and bring some sense of structure or order to your physical home space. We're going to see the moon sextile Jupiter, which is your chart ruler, in the 6th house. And it says the change is actually a change in the day-to-day. It's a change in organization. It's a change in resources. It might mean that, because you have a different work schedule, or maybe because there's been some significant shift that's been happening in your day-to-day or your habits, your lifestyle, you're having like a completion of emotional kind of responses. It really depends on your situation. I know a Mercury retrograde in your sign right now is a bit of a doozy because there is this sense maybe of feeling like you're fighting change, or that you don't really know how to better express yourself or communicate. And I think the 8th house full moon offers you the opportunity to dig deep and go, I'm going to confront some of these fears. I'm going to stop, assuming or reacting to change, or, saying, no, I don't want to let something or someone go. I don't want to change my home. I don't want to move. And maybe it's about embracing it and being like, it's okay to like heal, right? Because the 8th house has like this very, kind of transformative quality. Aries and Scorpio, the Mercury, Mars in your 1st house, where you can get kind of sensitive and touchy and very emotionally reactionary, and say things that you don't mean. It can be projected at the wrong people. And I think really it's because you're still either settling into some kind of change, or you're still like learning how to embrace something new about your home or your family. So take time to really feel safe, secure, and protected. Be mindful of not letting fear get in the way and kind of run away with you and create some situations where, you can be unbeknownst kind of like projecting onto other people, and wigging out a little bit. I guess the positive is like Mars and Mercury, is trine the North Node. So it's really about saying, you're opening yourself up more to 5th house things. You're opening yourself up to love. You're opening yourself up to creativity, to self-expression. And so maybe you need that space to feel like you can express yourself appropriately. Does that make sense? But yeah, something's changing at home and with the family for sure. And it's really important to pay attention to your mental health in the midst of this transit. The card that I got for you is the Knight of Cups, which can be a Pisces, a Cancer, or a Scorpio. For me, this is about creativity. This is about romance, charm, imagination, beauty, art. This can be also about being a little bit more diplomatic. I think, this is kind of tapping into that North Node in the 5th house, which is, like create, do something, get active, initiate something, like find ways to move this energy around if you're feeling like a little uncomfortable with change. This can be about an emotional shift and the potential also for relationships to develop, or relationships to come in. So if you're in a relationship, there can be more depth that's kind of going on in that relationship. If you're not, there can be a sense of somebody coming in that really kind of changes the way that you look at intimacy and vulnerability. Good luck, Sag. All right, so now we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You are going to be experiencing this full moon in the sign of Cancer. It'll be in your natal 7th house of relationships in your opposite sign, okay? So for you, Capricorn, this is all about partnerships. Emotional dynamics in relationships become very prominent. It's a time to address any emotional needs with relationships and find a balance between personal and shared emotions. Look, the sun is in your sign. Okay, there's a Mercury retrograde that's going from your sign back into Sagittarius. So there is the sense of retreating, needing time to pause and reflect, checking in with yourself, being alone, healing, taking better care of yourself, and feeling like you need some private space, probably where you're hiding away from the world or from family or from a partner. There can be the sense of also feeling a little squirrely with planets in the 12th house. Okay, so just take a breather. Pay attention to your dreams, your intuition, and like the subtle cues that kind of come through that 12th house where you have feelings about things. And it can provide you with some keen insights of things that you need to know about what is and is not working in relationships. You know, full moons in the 7th house, we generally see big themes revolving, you know, partners or other people. So 7th house could be your relationship to family, right? It could be your relationship to your home. It could be, you know, partners in general, clients, other people. So you might see them kind of acting emotional or, you know, sensitive or moody. This can be big completions in relationships. So if you've been kind of on the rocks and you're trying to figure out whether or not you're going to make it work, there could be big decisions made revolving around this full moon. There can be engagements, there could be weddings that can be happening around here as well. What I will tell you is that this full moon is in harmony with Saturn. So you've got your 7th house relationship lord in harmony with your ruler, Saturn. And it tells me that all things are possible with communication. So as long as you're opening up with Saturn in the 3rd, which isn't easy to do, maybe you're not ready to talk to somebody. You need to tell them that. You know, maybe you need some time. Send them text, you know, send an email. I'll get back to you. Just let me think about this. I do feel like it's going to be really hard for you to be 100% available because you're going through this retrograde in your 12th and you're kind of dealing with fears or anxiety or things involving the past, or maybe you're traveling and you're not easily available. So there is some separation from another person and they're feeling that. But communicate, right? Moon and Saturn and trine means as long as you communicate, you can smooth anything out, any misunderstanding. Saturn can talk about also the relationship with siblings or neighbors and, you know, communicating and talking to them and bettering the relationship with them. Maybe it's about you being the voice of reason and being the person that can kind of calm things down when other people are acting kind of frantic. And then we also see the moon that's in a sextile to Jupiter in your 5th. So like, my goodness, this is a really great moon for you. You know, sextile to the 5th house of romance. And it can also be about happiness, joy, children. I mean, there can be real growth that can happen in relationships through a little bit of romance or some quality time or some kind of growth when it comes to what you're creating or doing together. So maybe it's a matter of talking about that with partners, or maybe it's a matter of traveling, Saturn in the 3rd, going on a short distance road trip, reading together, you know, having more time together for recreation and hobbies, and, you know, really speaking out and saying what it is that you need and allowing that space for the relationship to actually evolve and for you guys to be able to build it stronger together rather than dipping into this kind of confusing, evasive, I don't know how I feel, so I'm just not going to say anything at all type of energy, or wigging out because you don't know how to be alone, right? Give this whole process time to do its thing and watch when the moon goes into Cancer and opposes Pluto, because it's going to be about big changes revolving around whether or not you're going to change or if somebody else is going to emotionally open up. The card that I get is the 5 of Pentacles. Notice we've gotten like all of the 5s so far. The Wands, the Swords, and the 5 of Pentacles. Not easy energies for some people. So the 5 of Pentacles is about financial loss, lack mindset, isolation, out in the cold, worry, hardship, and persistence of spiritual need. So it's like, I could see this as being like, I need more from you, but not saying it, right? Not telling somebody, or, you know, feeling like maybe you want to reach out and you're not being heard, or questioning whether or not you should say something. With the 5 of Coins, I'm always going to say, if the mindset is it's not going to work, or it's not going to pay, or it's not going to get better, likely that's going to perpetuate. You're going to see that continue. So we want to work on the mindset. That's really the Mercury, Mars square Neptune. If you have this kind of defeatist mindset and mentality, you're not going to see any change. But if you reach out and you say, I want to talk, or I want to work through this, or I want to get to know you better, and get out of your comfort zone, you're opening the door to be able to receive. So that's the focus here. It's interesting that this is also a card that deals with money. You know, Saturn is the 3rd house, in the 3rd house, but it's a traditional 2nd house ruler. So it can be about conversations you're having with siblings about money, about resources. It can be conversations you're having with partners about your financial situation and what you need, or what you're lacking, or, you know, what you need more of to feel secure or to feel safe. Okay. Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing this full moon in Cancer in your natal 6th house. The 6th house is all about health and service. So this is a time of emotional well-being, and service-oriented tasks are highlighted. It's a time to focus on self-care routines and address any emotional issues that may impact your physical health. Now, this is a sign, Cancer, that in conjuncts or quincunx your sign. So be mindful that it kind of rubs you the wrong way a little bit. You know, the moon in the 6th house does provide sometimes some changes of schedule or health or routines. The positive is that the moon will be in a trine with Saturn, which is your traditional ruler. So something about, you know, big changes or completions about your physical health, your habits, your emotional routine, maybe getting health results back, maybe having changes at work. It is impacted by Saturn. So it's almost like Saturn saying, yeah, I quit drinking, and then, you know, it's been X amount of time since I haven't been drinking. And then the full moon in Cancer is like, I feel better emotionally, you know, I'm getting more done. I feel more productive. My mood has lifted. But it can also be a time where there is a sense of, you know, getting results back, and you're like, oh, I actually need to cut back on what I'm eating, and I can't be eating that anymore. My doctor is saying my cholesterol or this or that is, you know, being affected. Full moons in the 6th house do sometimes produce some theme revolving around illness, or, you know, having to deal with health and work and responsibility. So the other way to look at this is, you know, the full moon in the 6th house, even though it's positively aspected, it can indicate some completion of a job or some change with a job, and also, you know, the bringing you back to the awareness where you're like, okay, you know, now I got to find a way to make money, you know, the trine to Saturn. Now, the moon sextile Jupiter tells me that this is about expansion of home and family, and maybe with that comes more responsibility, you know, more dogs to watch or walk, more plants to kind of tend to, more kids to watch, whatever. So there is this sense of having responsibility for your home and your clan and making sure that everybody is covered. So it can be whether or not a family member is ill and if you have to take care of them. If it's, you know, somebody's not able to kind of, you know, watch the kids, you show up and you help, or you know, travel to kind of help them do that. And really covering all the bases for everybody's needs when it comes to home and family care. So maybe the trine to Saturn is the financial responsibility and obligation for this, and feeling kind of like, okay, you know, I'm taking care of things, I'm paying for things, I'm working, I'm making these sacrifices, and you're feeling a sense of pride, but also it's like really recognizing how much time or energy or finances it's taking to be able to kind of keep the whole thing going, right? So some food for thought there. Definitely some big things that are shifting when it comes to your home and your family. And sometimes the full moon in the 6th house can be as simple as being like, I need to find the right doctor, the right practitioner. I need to find the right designer. I need to find the right architect, or somebody who can come in and help me kind of organize this. Especially if you need something like property related, this would be a good time to hire somebody who's going to like survey land, or who's going to like, you know, decorate a home or help you find a home or sell a home. The card that I get is the 8 of Swords. So this is kind of like feeling bound in a situation, which makes sense with the trine to Saturn. It's like, well, I have to pay for it because other people need it, or I'm the one showing up and doing it because there's nobody else. Feeling self-imposed, limited. There can be a sense of feeling like you're the victim, trapped, or helpless in a situation. So it's like the sacrifice that you make, but knowing that, well, there's nobody else who can do it. I mean, and that's quite literally with the astrology. Not to be doom or gloom, because I do feel like there is a sense of being like, okay, you know, I'm the one to handle the job, but it comes at a cost, right? But remember that the 8 of Swords is, you know, a situation where it's like you can put yourself in that self-imposed position. You can limit yourself just in a sense of your thoughts. So I would think about that as well, and not put yourself in a space of feeling like this has to kind of go on forever, right? Letting go of bad habits, not feeling bound by them. Good luck. And then we have Pisces and Pisces rising, who will be experiencing this full moon in the sign of Cancer in your natal 5th house. For you, Pisces, Cancer is a fellow water sign. So if you have anything at 3, 4, 5 degrees of Pisces, but even if you don't, you're still going to benefit from this because, well, it's going to trine Saturn in your sign, and Venus is going to trine Neptune in your sign. So both the beginning of Pisces and the end of Pisces get a little bit of sweetness here one way or another. Gotta love a full moon in the 5th house. This is all about creativity and romance, exploring expressions and creative pursuits in romantic relationships, taking center stage. It's a time for exploring and understanding your emotional connection to pleasure and self-expression. So 5th house is about, you know, joy, creativity. It's about being on stage, sharing your talents with the world, romantic partners, children, lovers, taking chances. And the moon obviously is in harmony with Saturn. So it's like you're able to share your creative projects or what your accomplishments are in a very kind of like noble, you know, respectable way, in a mature way. And then we've got the moon that's also in a sextile to Jupiter, which is your traditional ruler. So what are you sharing? Is it a podcast? Is it a blog? Are you, you know, writing somebody a really heartfelt letter? Are you having a heart-to-heart conversation with a child? Is there something going on with, you know, travel and a romantic partner, or, you know, younger people and education? I could see that between the 3rd and the 5th. This moon, you know, I feel like in the 5th house is about feeling overjoyed with, you know, like home and family. So maybe there's a sense of, if it's not that, completing a creative project, having an amazing romantic kind of night or two with another person. This can also be about kind of tapping into your inner artist or your inner child, and finding ways to be able to acknowledge that and express that, and working through any blockages maybe, because Saturn can be blockages. And so maybe for you, this is about this emotional release, but it's doing it in a way where you're creating something, you're creating art, you're writing music, you're writing poetry, or you're you know, kind of connecting and collaborating with a loved one, and finding ways to be able to better open your heart up to somebody. I think it's really about understanding an emotional connection and being able to really tap into that. And yeah, I think it's going to have something to do with words because of the sextile to Jupiter. Okay. So amazing, especially for those of you guys who are like trying to expand your family. Like, you know, this can be definitely finding out you're pregnant with the full moon in the 5th house. The trine to Saturn can symbolize like this maturing or growing up phase, because it's about kind of like pride. Oh, there's the star card again. So healing and hope, renewal, miracles, rejuvenation, faith, purpose, and inner clarity. I love this. Inspiration. Jupiter can be very much about inspiration. So you're feeling inspired to write or tell somebody something, share something. But I think this is about your goals coming to fruition, wishes coming to fruition, right? You've got the sun in the 11th house. It's sextiling Saturn. So you're really serious about kind of leveling up, trining Jupiter. So it's all about who you're connecting to and who you know. So you're meeting with groups of people, very kind of star card, and being able to show what you've got. I love this. Very positive for you, Pisces. I hope that was helpful for you guys, giving you a little bit of insight into this up and coming full moon in Cancer. Let me know, what do you think? How is it impacting your chart? And is it right around the time of your birthday? I'd love to hear more. Leave me your comments below, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up and share this video with somebody else who could benefit from it. I hope all of you guys go and watch The Wizard of Oz. If you do, tag me in that. I love to see your guys' posts. People tag me in that stuff all the time on Instagram and on Twitter. I'm hoping you guys have a happy holiday season and a happy new moon, full moon, excuse me. And I will be back here, obviously, on Sunday. You guys can catch me for this week's astro weather. And we'll be doing live readings tomorrow on the channel. So you guys can catch me here also at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna be doing live tarot readings. I'll drop the link in the community section of my YouTube channel. So if you guys wanna sign up in advance, you can. But besides that, I will let all of you guys go, and I hope you enjoyed today's video on the full moon. Until next time, I'll see all of you very soon. Take care.